24 years later, after growing our lives and families, Tank developed some sudden health complications. This was our 50th birthday year. I got a call from his daughter, and she explained that he was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. Once I arrived at the hospital, I was told that he suffered a ruptured aortic aneurysm. At that time, we were told that the emergency surgery went well, but he suffered several minor strokes post-surgery. Therefore, he would have to remain in the ICU until further notice. As long as Tank was still with us, I'm good. We could deal with any effects of the strokes down the road. Several weeks had passed, and Tank remained in the ICU on a ventilator. My wife and I had to travel out of state for a few days to see our son in college. He had moved off campus, and we decided to go visit and help him furnish his new pad. One afternoon, while finishing up the decorating, I received a phone call from my godfather, Tank's dad. He made small talk at first, asking me about my son and the weather in Fresno. He then said, "You know, son, being the head of a family is very difficult at times. Just know that you'll be faced with some tough decisions in regard to your own family. I wanted to be the one to tell you that I'm going to take your brother off the ventilator at the end of the week. My son is dead. I don't want his children to agonize anymore." I said, "Okay, Pop. I'll be home in 48 hours. I immediately went into the bathroom, locked the door, and cried out loud in silence. After a while, I exited the bathroom and fell directly into the bosom of my wife and wept. As she held me, I could feel her heart racing and pounding hard, for she knew the magnitude of this loss. Upon returning to Portland, I took a day to prepare for my visit with Tank. When I arrived at the hospital, I was greeted by other family members and was told that I would be able to see him momentarily. In my mind, I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, if he heard my voice, it would somehow create a spark that would bring him out of his coma. "Chico, it's your turn. Keep your head up. Be strong," one family member voiced. As I made my way into his room, at first glance, a Tank wired and hooked up to the machinery just took my breath away. I had to grab a chair to sit and catch my breath. A nurse who was in the room monitoring the equipment explained that a specialist would be coming in, and at that time, I'd have to leave. I said, "No problem." I grabbed his forearm and said, "Hey, big fella, it's me. I know you can hear me, bruh. I need you to make your way back here. You're gonna have to fight like hell, 'cause Pops is gonna remove you from the ventilator, man, and I can't stop him. Your kids need you." I sat there in a trance-like state. I lost track of time. Then all of a sudden I felt a tap on my shoulder and a voice softly said, "It's time." Still in a trance-like state, I felt paralyzed and couldn't turn to see where the voice was coming from. I swear it sounded like Tank 24 years earlier after I fell asleep behind the wheel. Instead, this time, the voice, in his tone and his cadence, said, "It's time." "Sir? Sir?" The tap grew to a shrug, and I realized it was the nurse letting me know that it was time to leave. I stared at Tank one last time, hoping for any signs of life, but he was gone. I quickly walked back to the lounge area where the family was waiting, and without saying a word to anyone, I left the building and made my way to the parking garage, where I sobbed uncontrollably for several minutes. There you have it, my best friend, my brother from another mother, dead at 50. One of our plans was to get a little cabin by a lake or river along with the boat to do some fishing. We set out to accomplish this by 56. The significance of 56 was simply the year our two youngest kids would turn 18 and finish high school. Well, even though he didn't make it, I still fulfilled our goal for us. And in honor of him, I cleared an area next to the river on my property, placed a bench and fire pit there, and I call it the Aaron Bell Peace and Meditation Bench. I visit often to grab a moment of silence and to just remember my buddy. I no longer wonder about that night when I fell asleep on the highway with Tank. It's clear as to who startled me from the back seat that night. We both knew back then, but we were just afraid to talk about it for fear of sounding a little weird. But thank God for giving us the time we had.